Of all the amazing creatures inhabiting the Canadian West Coast, I find sea otters are among the most engaging and fun to photograph. Unlike their river-dwelling cousins, these exclusively marine mammals spend essentially all their time floating around and feeding in these frigid waters. Lacking the insulating blubber layer sported by whales and seals, sea otters must eat about 20% of their body weight each day so they can generate enough heat to stay warm in waters that would kill an unprotected human in less than an hour. Their diet consists exclusively of shellfish, which they obtain by diving down and collecting from the seabed. They also have one of the richest and densest fur coats in the animal kingdom, and whenever they're not eating, they're usually grooming their fur to keep it well-oiled and full of air bubbles that add to its insulation. It was their luxurious fur that was almost the otters' undoing on this coast, however. Although harvested by local indigenous peoples for millennia, it's estimated that in the early 1700s there were up to 300,000 otters along the coast of the North Pacific. After Russian and European fur traders discovered the quality of their fur, however, sea otter populations were rapidly decimated, becoming extinct over most of their range. By the end of the 1800s, it's estimated there were only a couple of thousand animals left on the entire North American coast, mostly in Alaska. With the loss of the sea otters, sea urchin and other shellfish populations exploded, triggering profound changes in the ecosystem, as well as spawning a shellfish harvesting industry. It took public opposition to atomic weapons testing in the late 1960s and early 1970s to motivate the American and Canadian governments to cooperate and relocate 89 sea otters from Amchitka Island in Alaska to the west coast of Vancouver Island. The subsequent detonation of a 5-megaton bomb on Amchitka Island is estimated to have killed over 1,000 sea otters. Fortunately, the transplanted population settled easily back into their original habitat, and although still globally endangered, at least locally on the coast of Vancouver Island, the sea otter has been able to resume its role once again as one of the keystone species in the ecosystem. Thinly disguised as family sea kayaking trips, I've been paddling around this coast attempting to photograph these delightful critters for a number of years. In some areas, their numbers have increased to the point where they can be found in groups called rafts, where they gather, entwined in the kelp, to groom and socialize. This makes them particularly relatable and interesting as photographic subjects. The tricky part is that these rafts can be somewhat ephemeral and move location from year to year. They are often located in isolated and sometimes rough waters. To add to the challenge of even finding a raft, the otters, perhaps understandably, are quite wary of human approach, which necessitates a large telephoto lens so as not to disturb them and disrupt their critical energy budget. Add up the cost of your camera, favorite telephoto lens and associated gear, and now imagine floating in a sea kayak surrounded by electronic killing, choppy seawater, and you start to get an idea of some of the photographic challenges one faces when attempting to photograph the otters. Join me now as I head out to try and capture some photos and video of a sea otter raft without dumping all my gear into the ocean. Of course, no trip to the coast would be complete without a healthy dose of rain. Sometimes it's just best to make a hot drink and just wait for everything to dry out. The great thing about the West Coast is that spring storms tend not to last too long, and if you have the luxury of time to wait them out, you can be rewarded with some truly spectacular weather. This morning, I was up before sunrise and heading out in my kayak to see if I could find some sea otters and perhaps even a raft. So the sun has just come up. It's flooding the bay with light, early morning light. The wind is coming in our faces. So this is a perfect scenario to approach the sea otters. Super quiet, super calm, beautiful light. So we'll approach from downwind slowly. We'll be lit by the sun. They'll see us coming. And if they wish to stay there and let me take pictures, they will. We'll give it a try. Let's go. The sun hasn't quite hit the sea otters yet. When I reached the location where I was hoping to find the sea otter raft, I was a little disappointed to discover lots of kelp, but only a few scattered individual sea otters. The light was beautiful and the morning spectacular, however, and so I started taking pictures anyway. As is so often the case with wildlife photography, letting go of preconceived ideas and embracing what was actually going on in front of the camera resulted in an unexpected and remarkable experience. Sneaky little mammals. They always circle around right behind. I wish I was an owl. Twist my neck right around. This is pretty special. The otter here. or just floating around. They're very curious. Hi, buddy. These are totally wild otters. And we've just floated into the bay. They've approached us on their own terms. Obviously, we're not hiding. But he's curious. He's combining checking us out with feeding and grooming. Hopefully the time we get to spend with them, not threatening, just quietly taking pictures, is a positive experience for them. And others will enjoy it too. He's thinking about it. He thinks I'm a log. So that's wildlife photography. Clouds, skittish creatures, and then all of a sudden the light fills in, perfect green reflections, and one's just busy eating, doesn't care what we do. In fact, some come on a boat. Amazing. And now the clouds are coming over, the fog's rolling in. I think it's coffee time. Oh, well, that was quite a day. Those playful sea otters were crazy. I've never seen them try and climb on a boat before. But I guess we look like a log to them. Pretty neat when you can be out there, guests of these animals in their environment, and they accept you and letting them take pictures. Pretty special, pretty privileged. I can't think of anything else to say. It's just like amazeballs. Although not quite as sunny, the weather remained calm, and so we decided to try a different location a bit further away to see if we could find the elusive sea otter raft. The story of the sea otters on the west coast of Canada wraps in themes of colonialism and overexploitation, fascinating ecology, and is ultimately one of hope and renewal. I have been privileged to photograph these amazing creatures and hope to continue to visit them and witness their ongoing recovery in the years to come.